Getting used to that intro music. It's kind of a bop. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Armchair Athletes live stream. My name is Corey. If you are joining right now, you're probably into fantasy football, so you should probably like and subscribe. So I've got a lot in store for you in this live stream today. This is the Week 10 waiver wire pickups video. I see we've got some people in the comment section already. Here's how it's going to work if it's your first time, folks. I'm going to give 5 options. It's usually between 5 and 6 that I believe you should pick up off of the waiver wire, and then after that, I open it up completely. I open up the floor. It's a fantasy Q&A. You ask me your matchup questions, your trade questions. How's your team looking right now? What's your record? What's the format of your league in terms of the scoring? All that good stuff. So we will get into that. But before we get going, make sure you like this video and subscribe. It'll help a ton as I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and I answer all of your fantasy questions in the comment section below. So as I just said, leave those comments right now. Build me an archive, and I will get through every single one of them. We'll talk about our strategies. We will talk about availability, opportunity, and of course, productivity, the 3 aspects that we really want to focus on in fantasy football. Also, make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay updated, as we've got a Week 10 player to watch post coming up in the next couple of days, so those social media links are in the description. Also, make sure you check out my fantasy reports. I put out 2 shorts this week, one on the history behind Joe Mixon's 55.1 point performance, and I also put up a suggested waiver wire ad that is included in today's video as well, so we'll be double dipping on him. Super excited about a guy who is owned in still less than 15% of leagues, so make sure you stick around for that. Also, make sure you check out the Start to Sit 1 YouTube Shorts series that we have going on. All 4 posts, so wide receiver, running back, tight end, and quarterback. That won't be the order, but you get the point. Those will all go up tomorrow. Usually I get 2 Wednesday, 2 Thursday. Schedule's getting a little weird, but I'm still going to get all that content out for you before football starts this week for Week 10. So now let's cut to the chase, everybody. Which players should you pick up ahead of Week 10's action for fantasy football? The moment you've all been waiting for. Let's start out with the quarterback. We called Justin Fields a week ago, and well, that went pretty well, 42 points. So let's see how this one goes. I'm going to try and expose the same defense. We got Jacoby Brissett going up against the Miami Dolphins. Optimal matchup, and that's why I'm calling this more of a plug-and-play option, with Brissett playing one of the weakest secondaries in the league in the Dolphins for Week 10. We saw what the Bears did to him. We saw what's happened over the course of the last couple weeks. Although Fields didn't really cut him up through the air. He did have 3 passing touchdowns, but didn't go for a lot of yards. So, yeah, for Week 10, that's kind of what we're going to do there. We like Brissett. The Dolphins have allowed 18 total touchdowns to quarterbacks, that's passing and rushing, and Brissett is coming off of a game where he threw for a season-high 278 yards against Cincinnati in primetime last week. The Browns still have one of the most dynamic rushers in the game in Nick Chubb, but Coach Stefanski is beginning to kind of trust Jacoby Brissett to use that run game to his advantage in a different way, to build the play action, to go out and throw to his guys. They're getting Njoku back this week, possibly. He's already got Amari Cooper, who's had a couple of nice weeks. We've seen with Donovan Peoples-Jones, who is a waiver wire pickup that I don't have on here, but is not owned in a lot of leagues, can do as well. So we've got a lot of weapons coming back. We've got a great run game to build off of in Cleveland, but they've been hitting teams in the mouth through the air, and I think they're going to do that to the Dolphins because the Dolphins' Achilles heel, it's not their offense, it's not their front 7, especially with Bradley Chubb now as he develops into that defense. It's their secondary, and I expect Jacoby Brissett, coming off of a season-high 278-yard performance, to take advantage of that. And if we actually look at Brissett here, I mean, there it is. One thing I do like about Brissett, yes, he's not going to blow you away or anything. He's barely inside the top 20 right now for fantasy, averaging 14 points a game, as you saw in the lower third graphic before. He's got at least 1 touchdown in every single game this year. Baltimore being the one where he didn't have one through the air or on the ground. A little weird. Baltimore's defense really isn't the best, but the Dolphins are super vulnerable in multiple categories when you talk about the dynamics that a quarterback can bring forth. Even if they're not a great quarterback, I'm not calling Jacoby Brissett amazing, but he's going to get the job done. And I think he'll do a little bit more than that against the Dolphins this week. Next guy we've got out of the backfield, we will go Kenyon Drake in a very run-heavy offense. It's been run-heavy for a while in Baltimore. He got a season-high 26 touches and scored 2 touchdowns. That's definitely going to bolster an owner's chances of winning. So if you had Kenyon Drake last week on Monday night, I know Tino, who's in the comment section, mentioned that he had him. Congrats to you. He did very well. Drake is having one of his most efficient years. He is averaging 4.7 yards a carry. Typically, he sits in the lower 4s, so really breaking out. He has been notorious for his yards after contact, his YAC, his yak, whatever you want to call it, although that could be yards after catch as well. Just a guy who's going to take contact up front and go beyond, and that's more of a scouting report thing. We're here for fantasy, so I won't get too far off topic, but PPR owners would probably want to see Drake have a little more involvement in the passing game. That's one downfall and one risk I want all of you to be aware of. He just has 9 catches all season, and welcome to Week 10. Yeah, Kenyon Drake, let's go. I see you in the comment section, Tino. Loving the production out of Kenyon Drake. And that's just what we like. We talk about availability. Hasn't been hurt too much. Opportunity, that's been the issue. It's been him and Gus the Bus Edwards. But, productivity's been there. So when you get the opportunity and productivity combined that Kenyon Drake has, the 26 touches, he wasn't great on the ground, but he had the 2 touchdowns to save himself as well. Got targeted once or twice. We really like Kenyon Drake, and it looks like Gus Edwards right now should not be back until week 11. We're seeing reports that Harbaugh is aiming at week 11 for a comeback week, meaning week 10 right now is not even in the question. So we like Kenyon Drake going forward, maybe even into the next week. At the very least, stream him or just sit him on your bench, but he is not owned in enough leagues, considering his production and considering his usage as of late with Gus Edwards out and continuing to be out. This is the low-key one. This is the one I got a YouTube short on if you want a different angle on this. It's more of a quick pitch thing, 45 seconds. I didn't know who this dude was a few weeks ago. I kind of recognize the name. He actually was on the LSU wide receiving core. Everyone talks about Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Oh, they are on a bye this week. Okay, so that's why they're aiming for week 11. Oh, that's the Ravens I'm talking about. Duh. Thank you, Tino. So Terrace Marshall Jr., not owned in very many leagues at all, less than 15%. He's the one I teased ahead of this week. I really think that this guy out of LSU, we talk about Jefferson, we talk about Chase. He was a wide receiver 3 for the majority of that magical year with Joe Burrow. So that magical season that LSU had, he was a part of it. Now, I just don't want to go historical context on you guys. Terrace Marshall Jr., although he was in that wide receiver, he hasn't been a scrub since. Had a decent rookie season on the Panthers last year. Coming into his second year, he racked up 48 receptions for 731 yards and 10 touchdowns in his junior year as an LSU Tiger. But now he's getting the opportunity. So his snap percentage has been north of 80% over the course of the last couple of weeks. And in the last 3 weeks, with that increased opportunity, we're seeing the productivity. Not the best catch rate in the world, but my point with Terrace Marshall Jr. is this. DJ Moore can't get all of your yards. You're a bad offense. Yes, you run the least amount of plays in the league. You can fact check that. It's still the case. They run in the lower 50s for plays, and then the Arizona Cardinals run more plays per game than anybody else. It's up in the 70s or high 60s. But besides the point. So with Marshall Jr., last 3 weeks, he's been productive, 6 receptions and 57 yards per game, dating back to a couple of weeks ago. So he's getting the opportunity. His snap percentage has been above that 80%, like I said before, in the last 2 games. And what has he done? He's scored over 12 points in fantasy in each of the last 2 weeks. And I'll keep saying it, guys. I hate the Carolina Panthers offense. But the reality is, they're going to lose a lot of games, and even if they don't run a whole lot of plays, they're going to have to go pass heavy in the second half. This is a team that's going to find themselves, as they already have, continuously down multiple possessions in the third and fourth quarter. And whether it's Baker Mayfield or PJ Walker, they can't throw the ball to DJ Moore 30 times a game. I laugh at that because we really don't know who the quarterback is right now. It's supposed to be Walker again, but Mayfield came in and actually scored more than Walker could. Walker had an abysmal first half, but then again, it was garbage time, so maybe it's just one of those things where you don't want your guy to get hurt. I didn't think Walker looked too good, but it's a small sample size. CMC and Anderson are gone, so I honestly think that because DJ Moore can't get the ball 30 times a game, at least we haven't seen it yet, maybe he will, who knows with this Panthers team, somebody else is going to have to get those secondary targets, and I think that's going to be Marshall Jr. Foreman didn't have the best game last week, and in the passing game, you just got to utilize somebody else out wide, and Marshall Jr. comes from that LSU background, knows what it's like to be in a championship locker room in terms of just electrifying pass catchers. He was one of those guys. 10 touchdowns his junior year, got drafted in the second round by this Panthers team, and he's already taken a significant step forward when we talk about relative to his rookie year in 2021. So I really like Terrace Marshall Jr. Only owned 15% of leagues, 1-5. So make sure you go out and get him. We'll stay at the wide receiver position. This guy is less low-key. A lot of people know his name because he's a significant returner on the Kansas City Chiefs, Mecole Hardman. So you got to keep in mind this Chiefs team is going to look decent on paper for fantasy evaluation for a little bit. Mahomes threw the ball a career-high 68 times last week against the Titans. One of the weirdest games I've ever seen. Super close between the two teams. 68 passes for Kansas City, and then Malik Willis threw the ball less than 20 times, had 5 or 6 completions. I'm going to have to fact-check that later, but just a complete polar opposite when you look at the offenses of the Chiefs and the Titans. We've seen the ball get run through Derrick Henry before. They've got Hilliard, they've got other guys for when he went down. But ultimately, there's no A.J. Brown anymore. And by the way, I am super low on Robert Woods. Malik Willis is just being cycled into this offense right now. Tannehill might come back. So we kind of got to monitor that in terms of his health, availability, and just what Vrabel believes in as well. Those were all factors when talking about Willis playing in the last couple of weeks. Either way, the objective is very clear. There is not a, Austin Hooper's in the tight end room. There's not a definitive guy who's going to get the ball 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a game because it's Derrick Henry. But sorry, that was an aside. So the Chiefs offense, completely polar opposite. They're throw heavy. They were more throw heavy last week than they have been in a very, very, very long time. Mecole Hardman, if you look down the line, 4th most targets on the team this year, not something we're crazy about. But Hardman has logged more than Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who I talked about as a pickup last week, in the last 3 weeks. So really, I'm thinking Hardman's the number 3 option right now. I think it goes Kelsey, Juju Smith-Schuster, whose fantasy stock's going up. That's more of a trade option thing. He's owned in most of leagues, so we're not going to talk about Juju in terms of a pickup. He's just not going to be on your waiver wire unless you're in like a 4-team league or something, maybe 6-team. But Mecole Hardman, we talk about a guy who is available in the red zone, gets used a lot in the red zone. He sits at 2nd on the team behind Travis Kelce in receiving touchdowns with 4 of those. And he's 3rd on the team in red zone targets with 10, 3rd on the team with targets in general over the course of the last couple weeks. So really, I like Mecole Hardman a lot. He's getting a lot more attention, and he's thriving. He's got a couple double-digit performances in a row. Actually has scored in the double digits in the last 4 weeks. 22 of his 34 targets have come in that time span as well. So big Mecole Hardman guy. Let's go to our last guy, and then we'll open it up to questions. I see we have Brian Pereira in the chat. Nice to see you again, man. All right, Cade Otton. Another name we really didn't know about a whole lot coming into this year. Obviously because he was a rookie as well. But with Cameron Brate there, look, the tight end production just hasn't been good in general until a couple of weeks ago. Brate goes out. We've got to feel this one out, though. This rookie tight end, he's gained some traction in the last few weeks with Cameron Brate out. But reality is, he's at number 4 option. I don't have it up on here as well, but in terms of snap count percentage, the last 2 games that Brate has actually played in, Otton's been in 2. Otton has had more snap percentage. He's had a higher snap percentage than Cameron Brate. So I really do think that Cade Otton has the opportunity, even if Brate does come back this week or next week or the following week. I don't think it matters a whole lot because of Otton's performance. And we also talk about the fact that with, he's seeing the increase in targets, the production's up there too. Again, we'll go back to it. Opportunity, availability's been there, and then productivity. Otton's been more productive, more yards per reception. And he also caught the game winner last week against the Rams in a game which, by the way, that did not look like the 2 most recent Super Bowl winners, Rams 2 weeks ago, and then the good old Bucs this year. Just scraping their way to a 4-5 record. But he caught the game winner last week against the Rams. Tom Brady, we got to go into his mindset. He looks frustrated out there. He's pissed off. He's looking for answers, and he may have one in a tight end with a catch rate greater than 70%, which, as you saw before, is Cade Otton there at 72, above everybody above him. And look at the health issues. So we've got Mike Evans nursing and Russell Gage nursing. So they're both nursing injuries right now. And, let's just talk about the opportunity there. It could be Chris Godwin, and then maybe Cade Otton's the second option, even if Brate does come back, because he has been beating out Brate for those opportunities for the snap count percentage, even when both guys seem to be healthy and on the field. Let's go into the comment section here. If you just stopped in the stream, thank you so much for joining. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe if you got value out of those 5 waiver wire pickup suggestions. And if you get value out of the suggestions I'll be giving you based on your questions in the comment section, again, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. We are at 234 right now for subscribers. This channel was at like 107 a little over a month ago. So super excited about that. Super excited to grow the community. And as always, if you have any suggestions in the comment section on what you would do, I see some of you are answering each other's questions as well. Doesn't just have to be me answering, okay? I'm not the albeit fantasy expert. I have a lot of analysis. I have a lot of research that I want to share with all of you. But as always, if you have strategies in there, let's share them with each other and let's go out and win in week 10. Okay, so Tino said, watching you on my phone while I watch AEW. Oh, yep, on YouTube. Tino looks like Logan Paul lost to Roman Reigns. That's one thing I do know. Don't know much about the WWE community, but if you guys are into that, Tino's time, he's in the comment section right now. Go check him out. He's almost at 500 subscribers, growing super fast. Super proud of you. And he grinds more than I do, man. He's live streaming every day. I live stream like 2 to 3 times a week. It's usually Tuesday, Friday, or Wednesday, Saturday. Looking like it's going to be the latter for this day, for this week, excuse me. But I do shorts every day as well. So, Corey, how can we get me to 4-6? Tino, let's send that team over so I can kind of take a look at everything, and we'll go from there. We'll look at matchups. We'll look at the health surrounding these guys. When you look at a guy like K-Dot, and I'm kind of high on him right now because Gage and Mike Evans, there's a possibility they A, won't play, or B, if they do play, they'll have limited usage. So, Tino, let's try and get you to 4-6, get you going on a run here. I'll send you my team. Let me know what you think. Absolutely. Kenyon Drake, yep. Ravens on a bye this week. All right, Brian, we got a question here between Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts. Something we probably didn't anticipate being too much of a question a couple weeks ago. You'd be like, yeah, Jalen Hurts all day long, right? Okay. I think because of you, I picked up Justin Fields. Brian, if you started Justin Fields last week, well, it was Jalen Hurts going up against the Texans. So if you started either of them, you did well. But Justin Fields, man, QB1 in week 9, 42-plus points right after we told you guys to pick him up. I'm a little ashamed I didn't say to start him against the Dolphins. I wanted to see if he could string a couple good weeks together. He's there now. And by the way, I think he's a start against the Lions defense. They looked stout against Green Bay, but is the Lions defense good or is Green Bay's offense just bad? They can't find the running game. Rodgers looking frustrated. 2 red zone interceptions. That's my take on that. A little bit of an aside, nonetheless. Now I have a QB1 conundrum. Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields. So, Brian, we talked about matchups versus talent before. I'm not going to try and convince anybody here that Justin Fields is more talented than Jalen Hurts. He's definitely got ability, and out in the open field when he's getting 50-plus rushing yards, which we've seen throughout the last 4 weeks. Had a nice 4 total touchdown performance. A career week, really, against the Dolphins. It's definitely something we want to look at. We also want to look at the fact that Justin Fields is playing against a Detroit Lions defense that gets absolutely stomped on, has given up plenty of touchdowns on the ground, and through the air to quarterbacks. And Justin Fields brings that dual threat element. We'll see how much Claypool can get cycled in as well. Darnell Mooney, somebody that's involved. I really do like their matchup, Brian, against the Lions. Eagles going up against the Eagles going up against the Commanders. I mean, people kind of talk about the Commanders as if they're just this inferior team. They're in a tough division. We also have to take a step back and realize going into the season that the NFC East had the 29th, 30th, 31st, and 32nd strongest strength of schedule. So the 4 easiest schedules in the league went to this division. That's a little bit why they're looking so good. Still got to give your credit and your flowers to a healthy Saquon Barkley. Dak Prescott's been doing well, and CeeDee Lamb, of course. The defense, Micah Parsons, of course. And then if you look at the Eagles, they are obviously undefeated for more than just the fact that it's an easy schedule. You still have to play the teams in front of you and play them well. So, yeah, this is a little bit of a tough one. I do like Jalen Hurts more for like a higher floor because Justin Fields, we've seen some weeks where he just looks lost out there. Maybe the Lions do start to get some more pressure. They forced turnovers on Aaron Rodgers, and although Rodgers has struggled this year, although the Packers have struggled this year, one thing he does not do is turn over the ball. Brian, try and trade Fields as high as his value is. I don't know, Tino. If Fields gets another couple weeks together where we're really impressed, I think he's a hold. I really do. Even if the Bears are losing games, let's look at the game script, right? The Bears sold off their defense. Robert Quinn, gone. Roquan Smith, gone. So we've got Eddie Jackson who's balling out in the secondary, but that front seven's weak. Teams are going to score on us. They absolutely are. You got to sell out to stop the run, and if you sell out to stop the run, you go cover 0, you're going to get beat over the top. The Bears are not investing in their defense right now. They will be down the road. $100+ million of market cap. Plenty of draft picks. But, Tino, the fact is, with this situation, we have a team in the Bears that doesn't have a defense. So they are going to constantly be in arms races like we saw with the Dolphins. And I think they're better equipped on offense right now. With Mooney, with Claypool, with N'Keal Harry. I think they're going to start to get him involved more. I mean, with the exception of Mooney, we got 2 really tall guys, big frames, 6'4", 6'5", between Harry and Chase Claypool. Honestly, I don't hate Justin Fields there. I think that Jalen Hurts is going to be a bit of a sweat out because he's going up against the Commanders. Let's look at pass yards allowed per game. It is a heavy rushing attack on both sides, although Fields is a big part of that rushing attack, and so is Hurts. With Washington allowing just 270 yards or 217 yards through the air per game, Detroit's allowing 270. Washington's got not a great defense, but they have stood up on some teams. They stood up on the Bears before their offense really started to get in their groove. Tino, no disrespect. I think I'm going to go with Jay Fields here. I think he's been getting used a little more in the run game, and then he's going up against a Detroit Lions defense that I still don't believe in. They stood up decently to the Packers, but again, I'm a firm believer that the Packers just have one of the worst offenses in the league. Let's look at one thing before we jump off this because I want to make sure we get you a thorough answer, Brian. And then Legacy, we've got some questions from you, John, as well, and Michael Charles. All right, let's see. was going to lose this week's matchup anyway. Opponent had Mahomes, and I was obliterated. Had Evan Ingram, but didn't realize he was hurt until a day or two after. Yeah, yeah. Evan Ingram one was tough. I know I was looking at it. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's barely getting targeted. But Brian, we're going to finish up here on yours. If you just joined the stream, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. I am doing all of your fantasy homework for you right now before we get into week 10. So make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. Coming up on 250 subscribers. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Really trying to build a community here. Let's take a look, shall we? So answering Brian Pereira's questions right now. Appreciate all of you hopping on the stream, keeping me company as I try and help you navigate through the monster that is going to be week 10. Got bye weeks, including the Ravens, so something we want to watch for sure. So what is this? It's a lot of colors. It's basically just the amount of fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. I'm not just looking at it for that. I'm not just going to go there. It's actually from best to worst right now. So Broncos, of course, the one thing they're doing well is defense. Not, the offense where they invested over $200 million in their quarterback and Russell Wilson. So let's flip the script. Not really too intrigued and just leaving it at, did I click on an ad? Okay. Not really too interested in just saying, the Lions allow 21.6. Commanders allow 17.5. Let's leave it at that. Lions are worse in the red zone. Commanders are worse in the red zone. That's a little more in depth. Lions bottom 3 in overall and red zone. So really, they're just going to let you get down the field. They're going to let you score. 278 yards through the air, as we said. We've got a discrepancy there. So just a lot of red flags. 235. This one's more updated for the Commanders. 1.6 touchdowns per game through the air. 1.8. So the Commanders allowing a little bit more through the air. But as we said before, the Bears aren't really an aerial attack. So let's look at that rush defense. That's what we really want to focus on. And to QBs, okay? This is strictly to QBs. Obviously, Justin Fields is a different animal than an Aaron Rodgers or somebody else that the Lions have faced so far. It's the first time the Bears are squaring off with the Lions. Only allowed a couple of touchdowns. It'd be 2 coming into this week. It's 0.2, but they rounded it down on the ground. Not much for the Commanders there. So the thing with the Eagles, and this was brought up on Fantasy Flock, I believe. Mason, phenomenal fantasy football channel. Really dives deep as well into these matchups, into the different contexts, run pass percentage. He'll go all the way into, I initially heard the thing about the Arizona Cardinals from him, and saw the Panthers were the worst in it as well. Snaps per game. That's huge. How many chances are each of these guys getting? How many plays are each of these teams running? Are they going up tempo? Are they not getting the ball a whole lot? Are we going to need to look at time of possession? All that good stuff. Long story short, Brian, I think we have a team in the Detroit Lions that's more vulnerable, and we have a team in the Philadelphia Eagles, in all honesty. And I will say, Fantasy Flock said this first, they just want to get the win and get out of there. They're not going to try and put up 30, 40, 50 points if they don't have to, shove your face in or anything like that. They're going to dump it off to Miles Sanders in garbage time. That's kind of what we saw against the Texans. Although it wasn't really garbage time last Thursday. It was more or less, let's burn this clock out and let's actually make sure we can get out of here with the win. They're not going to hit you over the top with A.J. Brown when they're up 42-7. And maybe that happens in this game. But if it gets to that point, they're not throwing the ball anymore. They're going to hand it off to Miles Sanders. People talk about the Bears being the offense that runs the most. Eagles are down there as well. It's a run-heavy game. Jalen Hurts, I think, will have a decent day. He'll throw for a couple touchdowns. But if this game gets out of hand early, why on earth would the Eagles continue to throw it? And also, conversely, when a quarterback is running, they're really not doing it to chew the clock out. You're talking about injury. Even if they slide, maybe there's a late hit. You're taking low-risk plays in terms of turnovers and injury because you don't want to mess up that productivity or the availability of your star players. So it's not going to make sense for Jalen Hurts to run around if this game isn't close. And it's also not going to make sense for him to air it out if they're up 2, 3, 4 possessions. And I think Washington's a decent team. I don't even think it gets to that point. But I do think it's a significant win for the Eagles. Maybe they're up, maybe 2 possessions, maybe 3. Definitely not 4. Whereas Justin Fields, no matter what, I don't think there's a world where the Bears blow the Lions out. I don't think the Lions are that bad. Their defense is just that bad. But conversely, the Bears just sold out on defense. So, Brian, that was a long answer, but I hope it helps. I'm actually rolling with Justin Fields. They are going up against a worse defense in the Lions. We've seen that. The Packers just have a bad offense. I'll stand by that. I got to see 2 consecutive good performances from the Lions before I start saying they're not a bottom 2 defense, because every stat we just looked at said they were. And with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, they're not complacent, but when they have a certain lead, they just want to get out of there. Their defense is phenomenal. I don't see that Washington offense scoring. I'm not going to put a number on it, but they're not going to score a whole lot. I wouldn't be shocked if it's around the 10 to 13 range, okay? So I did put a number on it. With Justin Fields, it's a more aggressive offense. They're investing in the offense a little bit. They kind of stole from the Packers. They took Claypool because, the Steelers probably thought the Bears would have a better draft pick. And their defense sucks, so they're probably going to have to score all 4 quarters through the air. And Justin Fields would also be involved in the run. So more aggressive approach and better matchup. I'm going to go with Fields, Brian. Yeah, Tino said Hurts, and it's up to you guys. Brian, try and trade Fields as high as his value is. So if you were trading Fields, then yeah, you'd obviously go with Hurts. But I'm a Fields believer for these next couple games. He's got a matchup against the Lions. Falcons are coming up. It does get tough. He's got to play the Jets and then the Bills. So maybe he's more of a stream for a week or two. But yeah. Legacy, I need a tight end this week. Who do I choose out of Kmet, Pitts, and Freiermuth? Freiermuth, if healthy, I like a lot. Pitts, there's always been a usage issue with him. He's had a good couple of weeks. Kmet getting more involved, 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. I'm probably between Freiermuth and Kmet. Pitts just frustrates me so much. Let's look at Freiermuth's health. It was questionable not too long ago. If you just joined the stream, welcome. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, and we are running through your fantasy football questions. Just gave you 5 waiver wire target options. Obviously, the waiver wire is open. The deadline's done, so you can just grab these guys. And these are guys that were still under 50% in terms of ownership rate after the waiver wire hit this morning, after the deadline hit this morning. Freiermuth seems to be healthy to me. So, obviously, we have Chase Claypool gone. So, really, it's Deontay Johnson, it's George Pickens. And then it's Freiermuth in there. It's a 1-2-3 punch. Yeah, I mean, I don't love this offense. Kenny Pickett, 2 touchdowns, over 8 turnovers, at least 8. He has 8 interceptions and a fumble or 2 as well. So just they're losing the ball a lot. They're not keeping it. They're not scoring. I see some other questions in here. I will get to all of you ASAP. This is for Legacy. With Kmet, it's tough for me, right? Because they have Mooney. They just gave him, I think it was 7 receptions last week. Claypool, you invested a second rounder in him. You're probably going to use him. He's a big target downfield. The Bears love to take shots downfield, and Fields' deep ball accuracy is actually not too bad. However, they haven't had too many big guys in the past. That's why they went out and got St. Brown, like 6'4", 6'5". Same with N'Keal Harry, same with Chase Claypool. Those big targets down the field is what they want to go after. Or one you think that could be on the waivers, Legacy. We could explore that option as well. But yeah, I don't like Pitts due to inconsistent usage in a run-heavy attack. And now they got Cordero Patterson back too, so. And he had a pretty nice game. I think the Bears can hurt the Lions in a lot of ways on offense. But Freiermuth has just had more consistent usage throughout the year. Let's look at that just to back it up real quick. If you're just joining, yeah, a couple things we look at, right? We want to look at recent performance, but we also want to look at context, like the depth chart on the team, because we know it's been an injury-riddled wide receiving core at times, and it's just an ever-flipping wide receiving core on the Steelers team. We've got Claypool gone now, so Pickens, whose fantasy stock's definitely up. Deontay Johnson are the guys. Freiermuth is right there. We've seen a little dip, but it really doesn't matter. It was like 1 bad week. And he's not touchdown reliant. Freiermuth isn't, which is great because he's on such a bad offense. You don't want to count on them scoring a whole lot. Yeah, 12.5 points here. Took care of business with the touchdown there. 6, we're not crazy about. 15.5. There's our down week against Buffalo's going to shut just about everybody down. Miami. Philly's a tough defense, and he still put up 9.7. I'll take 9.7 points from my tight end in a standard PPR format against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, that's a tough defensive matchup. 2 things he really had to fight off. The Jets are a good defense, and he had arguably one of his best games. So I think Freiermuth just has more consistency, and we were seeing that before they got rid of Chase Claypool. I'm going to go Freiermuth. Otherwise, Legacy, you could go Cade Otton, and I put a little lower third on here not too long ago. You can see the ownership is pretty low. Got that game winner. I think he has more opportunity with Russell Gage and Mike Evans possibly nursing injuries, so either they play or they play limited snaps or run limited routes. And even if Cameron Brate is back, the last 2 times that him and Otton have shared the field, Otton has beaten him in snap percentage. So I'm going to go Freiermuth and or Cade Otton. If you really want Cole Kmet for the touchdown appeal, that's fine because this Bears offense is scoring. but he just started getting used a couple weeks ago. And honestly, I thought he was going to be a lot more involved in this offense here, but now they go out and get another weapon. They run the ball a lot to begin with. I'm feeling really safe with Freiermuth or Cade Otton. So Otton's that waiver choice legacy. John, is Tom Brady still a divorce? Tom Brady with the divorce is still a stream option. Oh, yeah, feel bad for that guy. Yeah, they're like showing these memes where he's in the locker room and it's like, oh, POV, his girlfriend just broke up with him. It's like the whole high school thing. Obviously, it's a bit different. Tom Brady was kind of in a committed marriage, but yeah, he could be a stream option. You know, fantasy-wise, he's not horrible. My big thing is people are taking Tom Brady over, and it's not an issue anymore because more than like 3/4 of the leagues own him. But a couple of weeks ago, people were taking Tom Brady over Geno Smith, and I'm like, look, I understand what he accomplished before. I understand he has the weapons of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, which wasn't always true. Those guys have each missed at least one game. Evans got suspended, Godwin fighting an injury. I understand we've got a pass catching back in Leonard Fournette, but what have we learned about the Seahawks? One, that Pete Carroll deserves to be coach of the year. It's probably going to be him or Nick Sirianni. Two, that offense is pretty dang good, and they kind of have the same thing going on in Seattle. You've got DK Metcalf, you've got Tyler Lockett, and then you have Noah Fant had a really nice week. I put him as my start 2, sit 1 series, and he has a freaking week. He has a season best week. And you have a pass catching back in Kenneth Walker who takes a lot of carries. So, I mean, Tom Brady's still a stream option, John, but there's definitely better options out there. And, you know, people were taking Brady over Geno, and Geno's been consistently outperforming him. And I think people are starting to finally hop off of Brady and Rodgers, which, unfortunately, in my opinion, if you're doing that and you're like 3-6, that's kind of on you. It's a little too late. We can't rely on the fact these guys are future Hall of Famers if their situations aren't ideal. Time of possession's down, productivity's down. Age is there for both of them. When you look at Rodgers, he just doesn't have weapons. When you look at Brady, he's got a line that's really not blocking for him. That's why he's been yelling at those O-linemen, along with the divorce issues possibly, where he's just really frustrated with his personal life. So, John, if you want to stream him, you can with optimal matchups. I'm not going to blame you for that. I just think there's a lot of better options out there. Michael Charles, welcome to the stream. Will you trade Derrick Henry for Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Hopkins? My other running backs are Aaron Jones, phenomenal. Michael Carter, he did well last week. I was really worried about him and James Robinson splitting the backfield, Michael. But it looks like Michael Carter was pretty active throughout the air, and then he got a decent amount of touches as well. It was like 12, 13, 14 touches. So if they can split it like that and the Jets can stay run heavy, one, I think they win more. They tried throwing the ball with Zach Wilson 40 times a couple weeks ago, and they lost. But two, I think it's going to be a feasible play because it's one of those run-heavy offenses. It's the Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery situation, right? Those two are feasible plays. Then the Chicago Bears discovered that this Justin Fields guy is kind of athletic, so he's taking up some of that run usage. But that's why that's not feasible. Wide receiving core for Michael Charles. We've got T. Higgins. Good play until Chase is back in a couple weeks. Mike Williams. Joshua Palmer has been great, especially in that bruised-up wide receiving core. Keenan Allen, is he ever going to come back, right? Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, both good plays. It's a bad offense, but it's an offense that's going to have to throw a lot because they'll be down in a lot of games. Safe to say Mike Tomlin's squad will not be over 500, which he's had a pretty good streak of doing with them. So would I trade Derrick Henry for Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Hopkins? I don't hate it because Jonathan Taylor, even if he continues to perform like a mid to low end running back 2, DeAndre Hopkins is a top 3 wide receiver in the game right now in terms of productivity. Really like what he's been doing. I mean, just look at D-Hop here. 1 second. Just switching over here, guys. So, not the most usage last game, but in 3 games, he's already the 4th most used guy, you know, comparing to guys that have been on this team all season. You know, Robbie Anderson quickly coming onto the team. -4 yards right now. Yeah, I thought that Robbie Anderson was going to be that wide receiver too, but it looks like it's Rondale Moore. But DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, we've got Marquise Brown down still. Rondale Moore is out for a little bit. So it's been Zach Ertz, but Hopkins is probably going to be the number 2 wide receiver in terms of targets if Brown stays out for a couple more weeks in like 2 to 3 weeks. He'll definitely be 3 by like 1 to 2 weeks from now. So Hopkins just gets that usage. He's already averaging, got about 100 yards a game, 2 touchdowns, beating out everybody but Marquise Brown and Zach Ertz, who have both played more. So I like it. I look at target usage there because we really want to see how much of a part of the offense is DeAndre Hopkins. Did I probably have to pull up that graphic for a guy like D-Hop? No, we know how reliant they are on him. Got to keep ourselves honest with the 5 targets last week, though. I would do it, Michael, if it's standard PPR format. Derrick Henry's not going to catch anything. And Jonathan Taylor, especially with the subpar performance from Deion Jackson. We were really high on him last week. Didn't do much at all on the ground. Didn't get much going through the air. So he had a pretty subpar performance. We thought he was going to go for maybe 15, 20 again. He didn't get anywhere close to that. Got a guy in Jonathan Taylor who's an all-purpose back, albeit disappointing. He wasn't a number 1 overall pick. I think we'd still take him in the 4th or 5th round. Offensive line's been horrible. Frank Reich's gone, so maybe it's time to turn around, right? Maybe we rely on the run more again. So DeAndre Hopkins, phenomenal. JT, last year this trade's a robbery, but mid to low end running back 2, and one of the best wide receivers in the game, fantasy-wise and football-wise in general, for Derrick Henry. I like it, Michael. I think you got a lot of upside there. Even if JT holds his current production, you've got a great piece in DeAndre Hopkins. I would almost call that a 1-for-1. People want to talk about, the sample size, the suspension. He hasn't missed a step, guys. I don't care that he's 30. So I'd go with it, Michael. I think you get a solid running back, despite the fact he has severely underperformed, and you get DeAndre Hopkins as well. And we still got Sam Ehlinger breaking into the NFL. They'll probably be pretty run reliant until they start to lose games by 14, 20, 23 points, which hopefully, Jeff Saturday's taken over as interim head coach now, I think. They don't have to. So nice team, Michael. I would go with the trade. Building some depth in that wide receiving core. You got a real true one. You've got the good pairs in Mike Williams and Joshua Palmer, Deontay Johnson, and Pickens. Hopkins is all by himself right now. Both on your team. No other Cardinals there. And also on the Cardinals with some injuries taking over there. Brian. Oh, you were talking about with Mahomes. Yeah. I actually enjoy fantasy more than football now. It's crazy. Go back 5 years ago, I couldn't care less about fantasy. Now I love it. Brian, it's weird, right? So I'll be fully transparent with all of you. You leave right now if you hate me for it. Notice how I don't talk a whole lot about the Bears, except for the fact Justin Fields has been fantasy relevant for sure. So I'm a Bears fan. I'm a pessimistic Bears fan nonetheless, so I'm very realistic with it. But Brian, I have not wanted to watch Bears football for the last couple of years. So instead, I'm watching staples of the league like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, whoever I can nab at quarterback. I'm watching Derrick Henry. I'm watching Jonathan Taylor before he busted this year. I'm watching DeAndre Hopkins. I'm watching Devontae Adams. I'm watching the elite tight ends in the league like Mark Andrews, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, of course. Yeah, it's fun, especially when your game is done. It gives you a reason to watch the rest of the football games. Maybe you didn't have an interest in those 325 games, but now you got those West Coast games, and you're like, shoot, man, I got Zach Ertz playing. I got to make sure he does well for me. You can observe a lot of different aspects of the game. Can't say I was really looking at snap percentages or target usage before this year, before last year, really. I guess I was looking at it a little bit because I was getting more into fantasy football research instead of just playing and going, projections look good for me, right? So, yeah, Brian, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it helps you understand the other 31 teams in the league. And, maybe if your team isn't doing too well, like my team's 3-6 right now, rebuilding, you could focus on other things. And maybe you can actually, I'm not going to say control. You can't control how your guys do, but you can control who you pick up, what research you conduct. And in my opinion, you can give yourself a better chance at winning. So, full disclaimer, by the way, if you're stopping in, you're looking for a guaranteed win, no one's going to give you that. I'm not going to give you that. I am going to put the research in front of you that I think is appropriate to give you a good chance to win. I'm going to tell you who's getting those snaps. I'm going to tell you who's getting the targets as of late. I'm going to tell you who's hurt, who hasn't been getting the ball around these guys, what the opportunity is, what the run-pass ratio is. Is this a run-heavy team with a running back too? Maybe there's room for him. I'm going to give you all that context, and from there, I think the results improve a lot. We've seen it. I've seen it on my teams. I won a decent amount of a decent chunk of change last year. Tried to combine two phrases there. So I'm going to put some research in front of you. It's kind of in your hands from there. And then if you want to ask me what I would do if I was in your spot, I'll tell you. It's my goal to give you the best chance to win, but obviously nobody can guarantee wins. But Brian, I think it's a lot of fun. I think fantasy football is thrilling, and that's why I started this channel, and that's why I wanted to start this community. And a lot of you are making it fun to talk about it as well. Sean, welcome back. Hey, bro, we thinking Deontay Johnson or Rondale Moore? Rondale Moore, we got to check the status of his injury, my man. Some of you are turning in my day ones. You're coming back for the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th live stream. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, Rondale Moore, we really have to monitor this. Kyler, too. How much can we trust this wide receiving core if Kyler's out and we got Colt McCoy throwing? Well, they got Trace McSorley there deep in the depth chart. So Rondale Moore, let's take a look at him. Is it a questionable with a caveat, or is there actually something we need to concern about? Hand injury. Yeah, that's pretty important. So Wednesday's walkthrough. We want to see if he's practicing Thursday, Friday. If he's limited by Friday or Saturday, we really got to watch it. Because not only is Kyler Murray possibly going to be out, but even if you have Rondale Moore playing and he still was limited in practice later in the week, do we really want to play someone who might only run half his routes? We want to get more bang for our buck, right? Deontay Johnson, no health issues with him right now. Steelers, although I hate the offense, much like I do the Panthers, we have to make the point of game script, meaning, hey, they're going to be down by multiple possessions late in the game. What are you going to do in garbage time? You're going to throw it. You want to get down the field. You want to put together good drives. Unless you're really experimenting with your run game, which I don't think they need to do. They think Najee Harris is their guy. I think he's very inefficient, but nonetheless. So Deontay Johnson or Rondale Moore. I think I'm going Deontay Johnson, honestly. It's the Steelers against the Saints. The Saints don't have the best secondary if we look here. Also, excuse me if I'm a little congested. I'm getting like 12-hour colds where I wake up weird and then I start to, get ready to go to bed in a couple hours, obviously, as people do, and I just get congested again. So my apologies on that. I'm going to try and speak as clearly as possible for all of you so you can understand me. But if you need me to interpret, just let me know. So Pittsburgh going up against New Orleans. And you've actually got to go all the way up here to see how many yards they give up. But New Orleans is bottom 10 in terms of fantasy points given up to wide receivers. They're giving up a lot of scores, big plays, receptions. So that's kind of what we want to look at there. So, Sean, I'm going to go Deontay Johnson over Rondale Moore due to availability. Rondale Moore could be down. Kyler could be down. Both guys could be playing limited. If Rondale Moore is playing limited alone, you're sacrificing snaps. They'll probably give Robbie Anderson, since he's been in the offense for almost a whole month now, a little more action. You still got Zach Ertz in there. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins. So, I'm going to go Deontay Johnson. They'll probably lose that game to the Saints, so they will have a chance to throw the ball a lot down the road. Down the last, 4 or 5 possessions. It's going to be Deontay Johnson time because Chase Claypool's gone, so it's pretty much Johnson, Pickens, and Freiermuth. Super CMB, nice to see you here again, man. I bought low on Adams last week, and I gave up Pittman and Mostert to get him. That's pretty good. Yeah, that was the week where Adams had an illness and only had 1 catch. When you know you have a consistent guy, your staples, your Justin Jefferson, your Devontae Adams, your DeAndre Hopkins, we go to the running backs and we have guys like Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. If they have one down week and a fantasy owner wants to get impatient with that, you have to understand those are going to happen. And the head coach, when it's a staple like that, when it's like a Derrick Henry or a Devontae Adams, they're going to make sure that guy gets involved. McDaniels might be on the hot seat, so we got to watch that. But good job doing that. Paired Adams with Kenneth Walker and Mixon on my team, and I dropped 201 flex league. Yeah, because Devontae Adams snapped. Kenneth Walker has been consistently getting like 20 points. And Joe Mixon dropped, I am assuming, 1 flex league. I'm assuming it's standard PPR for you, Super CNB. Joe Mixon dropped 55.1. One of the best fantasy performances we've seen since Jamar Chase, his teammate, actually dropped like 55.6, I believe it was. You could see it on StatMuse. That's ridiculous. That is crazy. John, do you do any other fantasy like basketball or hockey? I've considered it. I really want to put my full attention towards football, but I might shift over to fantasy basketball as well. So if you're just joining, first off, thanks for joining the live stream. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. Per the headline, I'm giving you guys waiver wire targets. Those 5 are done. You can scroll back in the video or watch it from the beginning once we're done here if you want to stay in the live part of the live stream. But I also do general sports updates. That's going to get into some NBA coverage in a bit. That's also going to get into some baseball reactions I kind of made this channel right during the World Series run, so I didn't want to hop in it too late. I could do fantasy basketball for you guys. I could do hockey as well. It's mostly right now going to be general sports updates and then fantasy football because there's such a big emphasis. So many people are putting their money into that. Not that they aren't for basketball or baseball, but the investment is heavy in fantasy football. So, John, I'll answer your question like this. The main focus of this channel is fantasy football and then general sports updates, facts about other things going around. I covered the fact that there was a D1 team that played an NAIA team probably a little over a month ago now. 98-0. I made a short on that. I'm like, how often are you going to see that, right? So, yeah, general sports updates and an emphasis on fantasy football. We might trickle into fantasy basketball. Otherwise, I don't know how much I want to jam into one channel. Maybe I make an extra channel for that. But I've got a couple people I've done podcasts with who are very invested in the fantasy basketball community. So if that is something you guys want to see this brand expand into, I might put a poll out and we can do that. I can get, some frequent content going out there once or twice a week. And then, maybe I just do premiere videos for that. And from there, once we hit basketball season, we go full charge into it. Swavey, welcome back, man. 10-man PPR, 7-2. Congrats. You're probably like 1 or 2 games away from clinching a playoff spot. Trade Lamar, DeAndre Swift. Yeah, I'm big on trading Swift right now with the injury issues and Jamal Williams continuing to perform. T. Higgins and Mecole Hardman. Okay, so we got a 4. For Justin Jefferson, James Robinson, and Kenyon Drake. I have Fields. All the running backs are going to be Nick Chubb, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker III, and Jeff Wilson. Wide receivers are A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Thank you. No problem, man. 7-2. We don't want to sell too much, right? I mean, I think when you have a... This is how I've done it. If I'm 7-2, if I'm 6-3 right now, I'm going for a home run hitter. I don't want to just make the playoffs. I pretty much had that locked down unless I'm, short of a collapse. I want to trade a couple of my depth pieces and get a home run hitter. I see that's kind of what you're doing there for Justin Jefferson. I think you can get a little more than that. We'll go into that in a second. And then if you're a losing team, if you're rolling over for draft picks, you start to plan out that. Otherwise, you give up a home run hitter. Let's say you're 3-6, last-ditch effort. You got to run the table and try and sneak into the playoffs. You give up your Justin Jefferson for a couple of nice picks, like a Mike Evans and, I don't know if you'd get Mike Evans and Nick Chubb. Obviously not, but Mike Evans and Dalvin Cook. You try and get depth. You get a 2-for-1. So you're kind of doing the opposite. You're going for a home run hitter and Justin Jefferson here. That's your priority. You've got Fields, so you're willing to ride with Fields throughout the rest of the season. That's my one concern, man. Fields is playing against Detroit and then Atlanta. Not worried about that. I'm worried about the Bills, and I'm worried about the Packers' pass defense, where they think he's too one-dimensional and they go for the run and they plan pretty well. And I'm worried about the Jets, so I'm not sure we want to ride with Fields week in and week out, but we stream him for the next couple weeks and see what happens. Phenomenal team, man. I could see why you're 7-2. Chubb, Etienne, and Walker. That is a brutal 1-2-3 punch. So, we're just giving up the quarterback here. We'll go the other 3. Higgins to Jefferson, such a big gap there. Obviously, you're winning there. Swift and Robinson. Swift's been hurt, sharing that role. Okay. And then Mecole and Kenyon, we'll call that the flex. I'm going to call that a wash. I'm going to say Swift a little bit over Robinson if he's available. So we got you winning with Jefferson over Higgins, Robinson, Swift, Mecole, and Drake. I'd almost shoot for... maybe their quarterback too, man, because you need a backup plan if Justin Fields doesn't end up panning out. I'm a Bears fan, and I'm telling you this, okay? Speaking from a non-biased perspective, I'm trying to help all of you out in fantasy, not cheer on my team. All right, so I think we need a replacement for Lamar. We need some compensation. We need somebody off the bench from their team who is reliable, or you can go off and grab somebody. Somebody who's not going to completely blow the game. Jacoby Brissett is someone I brought up earlier. He's not owned in Medi, so maybe you make this deal and then just go get Brissett off waivers. He's owned in less than like 30% of leagues right now. I don't hate it, though. I really don't. I know we want to go and make that home run play for Justin Jefferson. And considering the guys you have in the backfield, I'm not too worried about you giving up Swift. Obviously, he has not been doing too well. Wilson's got a good, significant active role in that backfield right now, even though it's him and Mostert. You have such a good team, though. I see what you're doing. I would just be worried about Fields falling on his face, and then you don't have any to back it up. So I'd keep the deal. I honestly would. I think Jefferson is worth Higgins and Mecole. Higgins and Mecole, or Higgins and Hurt Swift combined. James Robinson, Kenyon Drake. We've got Kenyon Drake, who's been pretty productive, as has Gus Edwards, so we may have a split backfield, but it's a run-heavy offense. Keep in mind, Lamar also runs it, so I'm okay with it as long as you, A, have a good guy on waivers right now that you can grab to back up Fields, or B, you get somebody off their bench and do a 4-for-4. Okay, Swaby, that's what I'd do. I'm not going to read that whole name, but Jerry Jeudy or Moody, Jerry Jeudy or Mooney, which one would you start this week? Help me, please. 3-6 and trying to make it to the playoffs, 12-team fantasy league. So we want to look at matchups, right? Very vulnerable secondary when you look at the fact that Judy's the wide receiver one. So this is an interesting one. Very vulnerable secondary when you look at the Lions. And the Broncos face off against the Titans. Titans have a pretty decent defense, honestly. Vrabel's got some good, complete, hard-nosed, old-fashioned football going on there. Let's look at usage, okay? Because I think this is pretty close. I am not a big fan of that Broncos offense, as I don't think anyone is, but Jerry Jeudy is the definitive number one. And Darnell Mooney, I expected to see a downtick in usage because Kmet's been getting used more because of the Claypool acquisition. Now Claypool's got a full week of practice in pads to acclimate. We'll really see how much they plan to use him. It's been Fields in the open field, obviously, and it's still a very run-heavy team. He's just taking some of Khalil Herbert's carries away. Jerry Jeudy or Darnell Mooney. Let's look at pure usage. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Although the Titans do have a better secondary, so I'm leaning Mooney. Let's do a little side-by-side. Well, not side-by-side. It'll be in the same browser, but... If you're just joining, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. And we're doing your fantasy football homework for you right now. I named off 5 people I think you should pick up off waivers, owned in less than 50% of leagues, even though it's Wednesday, so everyone had their chance to put their waiver claims in. You can go get these guys right now. And then I said, let's just open up the floor for fantasy football questions, and we've been doing that for the last about 30, 45 minutes, so... That's where we are. So I hope you are enjoying the stream. If you just joined and it's your first time, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to do everything I can to give you guys in-depth answers and girls. And I'm going to make sure that I answer all of your questions, okay? That is a priority of mine. And I'm just going to put as much in-depth research in front of you as I can, tell you what it means, and we're going to send you on your way with a better chance to win in Week 10 than you had when you came in. That's our goal here. Okay, so Darnell Mooney, we've had some good usage. It's a run-heavy offense, but we don't have a true secondary target. Chase Claypool, be careful. I mean, these are his targets from the last 3 weeks before he went to the Bears. So really, it's Mooney, Kmet, and that's kind of it. Claypool will definitely be getting more involved. Broncos, Jerry Jeudy is about to take that spot over. I really think he is. 18 targets in his last 2 games to Cortland Sutton's 13. 25 targets in his last 3 games to Cortland Sutton's 16. So we're seeing a couple more receptions per game. Not too crazy about the catch rate. It's really just Russ and his receivers not getting on the same page. Dulcich is a good one to look at coming back to for a deep tight end pickup. It was brought up by somebody earlier. I need a tight end. Should I grab somebody off the waivers? Dulcich would be a good one. People are still sleeping on him. 3 games in, and these are his stats as a tight end. I'll take that every day of the week. So Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton. Jeudy, 25 targets in his last 3 games. Mooney as the wide receiver 1. Getting 19. Okay. So Judy's getting more volume. Both guys having about the same season, but Jeudy has more touchdowns so far. He's got a tougher matchup than Mooney. Mooney is playing an easier team, but he gets the ball less. I think... This is for Kiss My... I'm just going to stop there. I think I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy. As much as the offense on the Bears is so good, it's just where do we spread the love to, right? Is it going to be more of a Claypool game? I think Mooney's going to get us a few points here. Okay, so we've got Jeudy getting more targets. Sorry, I'm just breaking this down. Judy's been used more. Mooney is in a better offense, and he's going against a worse defense. Yeah, I still think if, look, the Titans have been playing really good football. I think we could get to a throw-heavy game script later on in this game for the Broncos. I think they'll be down to the Titans. I think Jeudy gets used. They don't have to have a good game. They just got to give him a few catches. I think he's gonna get that volume for sure. So I'm gonna go Jerry Jeudy. And again, we are basing that off of increased usage and possible game script, as the Broncos are 2.5-point underdogs to the Titans. But I don't think you can go wrong with either. I would lean Jeudy a little bit, just off pure usage and game script. Super CNB, what do you think about Alvin Kamara and if he's getting suspended? Yeah, okay, so I know like TMZ came out with some video and there were a lot of reactions to it. We can't really speculate. And if someone asked me a while ago, I want to trade him, we can't really do that because then somebody else may be thinking, okay, well, I'm not dumb. Like, I know what's going on here. I know that he might be out. Do I really need to go after someone with, yes, high floor, high ceiling, great, phenomenal dynamic running back who can do it all, catch out of the backfield, hurt you inside and out. So if you're talking about the fantasy impact, I would kind of just hold and see, but start making some deals on the side, maybe not involving him to go, maybe not get a home run hitter at running back, but go get a Dalvin Cook, go get a DeAndre Swift if you believe he's going to stay healthy, or Jamal Williams. I'd probably go Jamal Williams due to usage right now. Go get a David Montgomery. It's still a run-heavy offense. They're very invested in him, even though Khalil Herbert was outperforming him in yards per carry and other categories early on. So, yeah, I'd stay put and maybe work some deals out on the side. You kind of have to act with urgency 4 to 5 weeks away from your playoffs, but I wouldn't be wheeling and dealing Alvin Kamara because we think he's going to get suspended in the next week or two because we just don't know. we got to watch for those updates. Right now, I would hold. Legacy said, thanks so much for the help over the weeks. Really hope your channel takes off. I appreciate that, man. Just trying to build the community of fantasy football. Trying to get to 250 subscribers. We're at 234 at the beginning of this video. Make sure you all like and subscribe. We just want to build something here where we can give each other fantasy advice. And mainly, I want to show you all the research I've been looking at when we look at target usage, snap percentage, and my 3 components that I love to look at. Availability. So are they healthy? Opportunity. Are they getting targets? Are they getting touches? And then, of course, productivity. What are they doing with those chances? So things we love to look at in the form of the people who are hurt or not hurt around them, the run-pass ratio, snap percentage, target usage, game script. Are they going to get blown out? Will the wide receivers get some garbage time? Vice versa, game script. Are they going to win by a lot? Is a Miles Sanders going to get to run the ball the whole fourth quarter because the Eagles just want to get out of there with the win and escape? So just things I love to look at and things I love to use to try and help all of you. So I appreciate that, Legacy. How do you feel about the Miami backfield? Thinking about starting Jeff Wilson because I really don't have a better option. So with something like that, it's tough because Jeff Wilson just got slotted in. We want to look at snap percentage. I thought he was going to be less involved than he actually was, and he wasn't. He got in right away. Let's look at this. There we go. Got some new people coming into chat. Thank you for joining. Make sure you like and subscribe if you are getting benefit out of, the techniques I'm using right now for other questions. And if you get a benefit out of the techniques I use and the answer I give you to your question and the explanation. If you think I'm helping out, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Let's get some mutual fantasy football love going on here and try and build this channel as much as possible so I can help as much of you out as possible. Tell your family, tell your friends. Let's get the word out here. Analyzing the Dolphins backfield right now. Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson. Those are the two we're really focusing on. I mean, it's split right now, right down the middle, 47%, 49%. Seen a lot of that across multiple positions, even on this team, right? Smythe, Gesicki, who do we really roll with here, right? I think that Jeff Wilson kind of showed in his first week with increased usage that Mike McDaniel should probably keep using him. Doesn't have the best matchup against the Browns. We've got Myles Garrett prowling there. Oh, got to scroll back down here. You guys are commenting so fast. I love it. Keep dropping those questions. I'm going to get to every single one of you. Thinking about starting Jeff Wilson. Super CMB, we'll have to see what your other options are, but I really think he's going to be fine. It's a high-flying Dolphins offense, and I really do think that the priority of this Browns defense is going to be how on earth do we contain Tyreek Hill, who already has 1,100 yards through 9 weeks, which is nuts, by the way. Everybody was talking about how Tua is not going to be that good. I'm not the biggest Tua fan, but he's definitely able to get the ball in Tyreek's hands, and he kind of just does the rest. Arm strength really isn't a factor in his effectiveness. But I would say Jeff Wilson's a pretty safe start off sheer involvement. We kind of got to wait and see. So if you have better options, let him sit. If you don't have better options, I think the usage we're getting, it's relatively 50-50 right now. We can go with it because we had that productivity before. So I say we go with it. It's Mike McDaniel just coming over and bringing all the 49ers with him, right? So, John, as a beginner, do I dump Ingram with the injury or do I keep him because he is rated? Sucks with Njoku out. I've been streaming different tight ends with some mild success. John, if you want to keep streaming, go Cade Otton. Russell Gage and Mike Evans are facing possible injuries, and even if they play, they'll have limited usage. Otherwise, Njoku, I know we got to wait. I'm seeing questionable. He might sit out one more week. With Ingram, again, we got to monitor that as well. And it's too early in the week. We don't know how he's participating in practice on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because it hasn't happened yet. I would be pretty patient with Ingram. They spread the ball pretty well, and it was an anomaly because he did get hurt. I think it's worth it if, sorry, one second. I do think it's worth it off sheer usage. Evan Ingram, yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the fact he got hurt at that time, too. He was really starting to roll. I was vouching for him. Very spread out attack by Trevor Lawrence. He's got 4 wide receivers halfway through the season with over 300 yards. Well, 4 pass catchers. One's the tight end Ingram here. I think there's better options out there if you maybe want to go out and get like a guy like Greg Dulcich or Cade Otton if you're feeling impatient. Otherwise, if you want to ride it out with Ingram if he's healthy, I think it's a spread out enough attack. But if you want to go get a guy like Otton or Dulcich, I think those are your stream options this week. Super CMB, Danny Dimes, Trevor Lawrence, or Jimmy G this week. All right, so we're going across the quarterback market. I'm assuming you're considering picking up one of these guys up or just starting them nonetheless. Trevor Lawrence going up against that Seattle. The Chiefs secondary is pretty enticing. And then Jimmy G goes against the Chargers secondary, also pretty enticing. And then Texans secondary is pretty tough. That's the one thing that Houston actually knows how to do. If we look here, yeah, Houston middle of the pack when it comes to passing yards given up. Top 10 in terms of least fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. There's Houston. Not giving up an outrageous amount. Not a big fan because Danny Dimes, he is also in a run-heavy offense. They're relying heavily on Saquon Barkley. That's how they win games. And even in the bootleg, he's really not running the ball as much as he used to before. If he gets a touchdown, different story. But he'll get you 40, 50 yards, right? Not a big fan of Danny Dimes because of the matchup and the run-heavy scheme. So Trevor Lawrence or Jimmy G this week. Trevor Lawrence has a better wide receiving core. Debo's been in and out. And Jimmy G is really going to run through CMC, sometimes in the form of dump-offs. I do like Jimmy G, sometimes in the form of, just handoffs, and then he doesn't get any credit for it. I'm good with Jimmy G or Trevor Lawrence. I think they both have great matchups. I think Trevor Lawrence has more healthy wide receivers, but Jimmy G's been more consistent. So if you're going conservative, go Jimmy G. He'll get you your 12, 14, 16. If you want to take a chance on a guy who might boom, might bust, maybe go Trevor Lawrence. Danny Dimes, let's take him out of the equation. He's in a run-heavy scheme and has a poor matchup. Mr. Curly Wolf, Kamara, and Foreman for Barkley. Yeah, so if that's a trade you want to make right now, as long as the other person on the other side of the trade doesn't think that Kamara is going to be suspended soon, we can go with that. I think that's fair from a valuation standpoint. Hubbard's been in and out. Hubbard should be back. But we're going to have to keep checking on that relatively soon. Foreman didn't have the best performance, but he still had a good couple weeks. So if the fantasy owner's not really looking at context, which I want you guys to, I think him and Hubbard are going to share some carries. I am not a big fan of Foreman going forward because, one, Hubbard comes back, and two, it's a losing team. You're not going to run the ball when you're down 14, 21, 28. And they were against the Bengals last week. So really fell down from heaven there. So I like it for you. Yeah, I think that's a fair trade for you. And they can get a lot of benefit out of Kamara. Don't expect them to take it because Kamara might get suspended. But if they're just cool with going with the upside and they think he can ride it out for 4 to 5 weeks and stay on the field, sure thing. 12-man PPR. This is from Jim. Let's sit one out of Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk has been so consistent, even going up against tough defenses. This week he goes up against the Chiefs. I love Christian Kirk to stay. Jerry Jeudy, DJ Moore, Allen Lazard. Okay. Lazard's been a pretty good staple wide receiver one for the Packers, and he's going up against a tough defense. He'll probably have Trayvon Diggs on him, otherwise some other member of the Dallas Cowboys secondary. So that one's kind of tough. DJ Moore, wide receiver one on a losing team. He's going to get his touches. And it is the Falcons. So I like DJ Moore against the Falcons. We saw what he did the first time. Not talking about when he took his helmet off and blew the game for his team. But so I like DJ Moore. He's got an optimal matchup. Christian Kirk has a great matchup against the Chiefs. Jerry Jeudy is kind of tough against the Titans right now. Same story with Allen Lazard against the Cowboys. I'd probably sit Lazard. I think that's a really tough game, and it's a tough offense. They'll have to go throw heavy game script-wise, so I'm contradicting myself a little there. But I think that you can go throw heavy on the other end with the Broncos against the Titans. I think the Titans, they take up more time of possession, but I still think Jeudy could get his looks. I'm going to sit either Jeudy or Lazard. I'm leaning Lazard. I think that the Broncos will run less plays, though, because of the monotonous type of football that the Titans play, where they're not going to let you put up 30 points because you don't have the time to. So Judy's probably going to need to score to outperform most of these guys, but I think that in garbage time he'll get enough catches to make up for that deficit. Super CNB. Should I trade away Mike Evans and Pat Freiermuth for Mark Andrews on bye PPR? Andrews still coming off that injury. Once he's back, it's consensus. He will be good. So I'm not a big fan of trading away. I'm also not a big fan of trading for. Mike Evans, you're consistent. I think he's got 8 or 9 in a row for 1,000-yard seasons, and Freiermuth, a really good tight end. I'd sit with those right now. Otherwise, if you want to get Andrews and somebody else, get a 2 for 2. not sure you're going to be able to get somebody off the waiver wire to really equal out the valuation. You've got a very consistent, reliable wide receiver in Mike Evans. Him and Godwin have been off the walls in terms of just guys you can rely on to get you that 12 or 14 points. Your security blanket, right? Everything else goes bad. At least they did their job. And Freiermuth's been well when being used, and also Claypool's gone. So it's pretty much him, Johnson, and Pickens. I would say get a 2 for 2. Otherwise, don't do the trade. Super CNB. Philip, welcome. I think it's your first time here, man. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're enjoying the content. 10-team league, 8-1. I have Hurts, ETN, Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Pierce, Waddle, Higgins, Travis Kelce, Christian Kirk, Cordero Patterson, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Tony Pollard, Alan Lazard, Pats D. Should I just ride the wave? Yeah, Philip, you are 8-1. You have a top 3 quarterback, depending on your scoring format. You have ETN, who is top 10. DeAndre Swift and Jonathan Taylor, okay, we've got injuries, and then Taylor just underperforming. Dameon Pierce is a Rookie of the Year candidate for offense, and for good reason. He gets high volume on a losing team, which is just weird to me. They love to run the ball even when they're down. Waddle's top 5 in yards in the league right now. Higgins is up there with Chase out. Travis Kelce's the best tight end in the league. Christian Kirk continues to defy tough matchups. Cordero Patterson's going to get that all-purpose back usage because he's back on the Falcons offense, which loves to run, and that's why they're tied for the lead in the horrible NFC South right now. DJ Moore, wide receiver 1 on a bad team who's getting lots of usage and has some optimal matchups coming up, including facing Atlanta. Pittman, I'm okay with. Tony Pollard, phenomenal. I think he's going to steal that spot from Zeke by the end of the year. Lazard, wide receiver 1 on a struggling offense. You got to feed somebody. Pat's D's been great. Philip, you're 8-1. I didn't have to read the whole team to tell you to ride it out, but that is a phenomenal team, and I just wanted to tell you why in each and every facet. Not that you don't know that, but ride it out. You're 8-1. If someone wants to give you a home run hitter like a Justin Jefferson, and you think you can give up a package like Pollard and Lazard for it, do it. And that would be a good example of one that I think would be fair because of Pollard's upside and Lazard's kind of stability around 10 points a game. So, Philip, you just sit pretty. I mean, you're about to clinch. You're doing great. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Jeb Armstrong, welcome to the stream, man. I made these 2 trades yesterday. Let's take a look. I received Hopkins and Patterson, Cordero Patterson, for Joe Mixon. You sold high. I like it. In the other trade, I received Fields, Thielen, and Pittman for Cooper, Amari Cooper, I'm assuming, Chase Claypool, and Dak. What do you think? Okay? Let's look at the first one. You got DeAndre Hopkins and Cordero Patterson for Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, even after that amazing performance, is averaging 3.9 yards a carry. So these are the 3 aspects I talk about if it's your first time in the live stream. I love to talk about these 3 aspects for fantasy evaluation, okay? Availability, opportunity, and productivity. I don't know why I forgot the third one. Availability, are they healthy? Opportunity, are they getting the touches? And then productivity. Hopkins is checking off all those boxes as long as he stays in the rest of the season. It was a suspension. It wasn't an injury. Patterson coming off an injury, but we've seen opportunity and productivity for both of those guys. Mixon's been getting opportunity. He has not been producing until that 55.1 point performance. So the fact you got a top 5 tight end in the league and then an all-purpose back on a run-heavy offense for Joe Mixon, who just had an amazing week. He had like a Doug Martin-like week. He's having a good season. Joe Mixon's a good running back. He's just, in fantasy, he's not that efficient. So the productivity portion of my little trifecta statement there, not a big fan of him for that. I think you won that by a decent amount. The other trade, I received Fields, Thielen, and Pittman for, okay, so we'll just do this straight up. Fields and Dak. I'm up on Fields right now with the matchups he has. He's more of a stream play because we've got Detroit and Atlanta coming up, weak secondaries who also allow the quarterback to run around and dance a bit, which Fields has been prone to do. Thielen and Claypool, more successful and more prevalent pass offense in Minnesota, so I'll take Thielen over Claypool. Pittman for Cooper. I'm taking Amari Cooper over Michael Pittman every day of the week because we have a backup quarterback now in Sam Ehlinger kind of filing in. Frank Reich is gone, so much unknowns. Maybe you're going to start to use JT more. So I'm giving you the edge on Fields over Dak. I'm giving you the edge on Thielen over Claypool. And then I'm going to say Amari Cooper is a decent amount better, or in a better situation than Michael Pittman. I think you won on 2 aspects and you lost on 1. I think you came out on top in both of those, man. The Hopkins and Patterson one for Mixon's pretty smart. I was telling people this before. I didn't really make a video about it. I was talking to my friends. I'm like, dude, drop 55.1 points. Let's just sell him for high value if we really don't believe in his efficiency. Somebody drops 55.1 fantasy points and they're still not at 4 yards a carry on the season. Okay. He gets used a lot. He's top 5 in the league in rushes. Clearly not the most productive. Leaves me with Justin Fields, Cordero Patterson, Aaron Jones, I'm assuming. Yeah, we're at running back right now. Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Mark Andrews, Deontay Foreman as my starters. Standard 10-man league. We'll have to watch Foreman. Not a big fan of running backs on bad teams because game script-wise, they're going to go throw heavy towards the end. He's been fine. Didn't have the best week. Hubbard's coming back. But Fields has been dynamic. It was quarterback 1 last week. Patterson, phenomenal. Jones, phenomenal. Diggs and Hopkins, man. 2 top 5s. I wish I could fist bump you right now if I wasn't on the other end of a screen. That's phenomenal. Andrews, when healthy, is going to be just fine. Great job, Jeb. Great job swinging some trades. Selling high, buying low. So I'm a big fan of that. Good stuff. Charlie, we're going to pick one out of this. Joshua Palmer, Darnell Mooney, or Devontae Smith. Talked about the Eagles before. They're going up against a respectable secondary in Washington. I really don't think they're going to run away with anything. They're not going to, or if they do run away with the game, they're not going to throw it like the Bills do. The Bills are weird. The Bills will just throw the ball when they're up 28. It's just what they do. Screens are their runs. That's just it. Okay? Especially with Nate Hines now. So not a big fan of Devontae Smith, to be honest with you. Facing against a decent secondary. And if they get up, it's going to be Miles Sanders time on the ground. So Joshua Palmer, Darnell Mooney. I have to keep watching this Chargers depth chart. I have to watch their injury report because somebody new is hurt every single week, and Keenan Allen has been questionable for the last month. So, wrong one. Let's see. Okay, we're still here. So Mike Williams out, Keenan Allen questionable. I'm just going to assume that's out. We can look at it. It's too early in the week, and this man has just not been coming back. Didn't practice. That's not a good sign at all. Okay. So Joshua Palmer, kind of the fill-in, impromptu wide receiver 1, is going against, and that pops out right away, the 49ers defense. 49ers do not allow passing yards, like, at all. I mean, I'm not kidding. 199 a game. It was a little, okay. Was one of the lowest in the league. They played Kansas City. Kansas City's going to put some points up on you, put some yards up on you through the air. Not a big fan of Devontae Smith. Darnell Mooney has the best matchup, Charlie. Been getting more usage. Yes, Joshua Palmer is in a bruised up wide receiving core, so I'd be good with Palmer or Mooney. With Mooney, he's in a run-heavy offense. Palmer's in a more pass-heavy offense. Mooney has the better matchup. Palmer is in a bruised up. So, I mean, they're both in good situations. I'd go Mooney or Palmer. I would lean Mooney, but I really can't blame you for either. Palmer is a more prominent figure in that wide receiving core right now, and he might get more looks, but he's playing a better defense. Carter, welcome to the stream, man. Wide receivers are CD, Terry McLaurin, Gabriel Davis, Joshua Palmer, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, Garrett Wilson. Okay, it's a good deep wide receiving core. Wilson's been on the up and up lately. Running backs are Austin Eckler. That's running back 1, man. Devin Singletary, all right. Cordero Patterson, Deontay Foreman. Still looking for a running back after losing Brees. That was such a tough. A lot of people drafted him obviously low. We didn't see him popping off this much. Or as far as we knew, Michael Carter was kind of going to split touches with him, and from the get-go, we realized that was not the case. Still looking for a running back after losing Brees. I mean, Kenyon Drake is owned in less than half of leagues if we're looking at ESPN. So, Carter, maybe we go for a Kenyon Drake. Possibly Khalil Herbert to hold. But if you want to find somebody to plug in and start, maybe a Kenyon Drake. If you want to make a trade, once Deebo Samuel comes back, I don't see Ayuk being used a ton because it's also about the fact that CMC needs those touches, especially with the dynamic talent that he is. And then George Kittle, of course. So maybe we pair up Ayuk and Foreman. We go and get like a Delvin Cook. Offer Ayuk and Foreman for Cook. Because you have Cook. Foreman's a guy with upside, right? We've had him put up a couple nice performances, but he is going to lose some touches to Hubbard. We'll see how much. Don't really know what's going on in Carolina right now, and it's kind of hard to care. They don't look good, but from a fantasy football perspective, we got to look at them. I'd go like Ayuk and Foreman for a Delvin Cook level talent. If you want a consistent running back who's going to go in there and start for you. And I think that's pretty fair for the other person too. They're going to see some ceiling with Foreman. They might see right through it because he is going to lose some touches to Hubbard, but we haven't seen it yet, so maybe he won't. And then Ayuk has been having a couple nice weeks as well with Jimmy G. They've got some good rapport. Dursty, would you trade Judy, Jonathan Taylor, and Geno Smith for Josh Jacobs and Kareem Hunt? I have Justin Fields as my backup QB, and I lost Javonte to an ACL injury. Yeah, those freaking injuries, man. Jerry Jeudy, Jonathan Taylor, and Geno Smith. Geno's a top 10 quarterback. There goes my hair. For Josh Jacobs and Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's still sitting in the same running back room as Nick Chubb, who Derrick Henry called the best running back in the league, which, that's pretty good respect. Nick Chubb averaging over 5 yards a carry through his first couple of years. I think it's first 5 years now. I really don't think that Hunt's getting enough usage to justify a 3 for 2 on that end. I think you can get a lot more. We go Jacobs, Hunt, and if you want a quarterback, man, swing big. I don't know who this person has, but... And I said this before about Justin Fields. Good couple of matchups coming up. Kind of a stream option right now. Let's put some nice weeks together. Been pretty run reliant, which is fine. Got his passing touchdowns last week. Got 3 of them. 4 total. He's got Detroit. And he's got Atlanta coming up. And he's got some tough matchups against the Bills, Jets. I don't want any part of that. Even the Packers have a really good pass defense. So, force them to be one-dimensional. Bad things can happen fantasy-wise there. I understand why you're going after Jacobs for sure. JT's bad luck, and then Javonte goes down on an ACL injury, and the Broncos running back room has been a mess ever since. So, not that it was very good to begin with. If you go Judy, JT, and Geno, you can get Jacobs, you can get Hunt, but you probably get another quarterback. If you want to go out and grab someone in a 1-for-1 and pull JT off and try and get Kirk or something, maybe that's fine. Kirk's very consistent, good wide receiving core with Thielen, Jefferson. They just got TJ Hawkinson, which is huge. Had a great first week, 16 points in standard PPR at the tight end position. I'll take that every day of the week. Durst, you got to go and get another quarterback. Otherwise, get somebody better than Hunt. Yeah, I don't know who they have, but go get their mid-wide receiver. Go get their second option at wide receiver, and then I think it's even. I think you're giving up a lot with Geno. JT's okay, all right. And then Judy's been getting a lot of usage despite the fact that the Broncos offense is horrible. Okay. That French fry you left in the bag. I love the name. Welcome to the stream. Should I trade Waddle for Goddard? How desperate are you at the tight end position? That's what I'm going to ask you. Goddard's been very, very, very consistent. It is an offense that if he doesn't get the targets in the first half, they're probably in the lead, and they're probably going to try and clock the ball with Miles Sanders. Jalen Waddle's a really good talent, man. Unless you're desperate at the tight end position, Waddle's got those yards. Tua's throwing it all around. The focus is on Tyreek, Mr. 1,100 yards through 9 weeks. I wouldn't do it. I'd do Goddard and Ayuk or somebody else at wide receiver. Waddle is pretty valuable, man. Unless you've got a good wide receiving core too, to support it and give up Waddle. But he's probably one of your best. Michael, welcome in, man. 8-team league, standard. Okay, so no PPR here. Looking for another running back. What do you think I can get if I package JT and Keenan Allen or JT and Juju or Lazard? Okay, if we go JT and Keenan Allen, he's pretty injury prone. You're probably not going to get much of an upgrade. Probably get a Leonard Fournette, who people are down on. We could buy low on Leonard Fournette. He gets a lot of targets, but has not been getting the points production that we've been looking for. If you go JT and Juju, a bit of an upgrade. He's been healthy. The wide receiver one, even though Kelsey is really the wide receiver one in Kansas City. JT and Juju or Lazard, you could go after. I'm really a big fan of Dalvin Cook because that passing game is such a threat. But Dalvin, if we look at him, just quietly doing his job. Production's cool and all, but I want to make sure my guy's getting touches. He is getting the opportunity to produce. And Dalvin just is. There was some talk about Alexander Madison before. Touches, 20, 14, 25, 19. Before that, 22, 17. It's a safe play, and he's not blowing anybody out of the... He's really good, but he's not, a top 3 running back right now in the league. So just outside of it, I think you could do JT and Juju and try and go after a Dalvin Cook, Michael. That's what I would do. Somebody safe like that. If you want to buy low on someone, we're going to emphasize somebody like Leonard Fournette with a lot of pass catching upside. Yeah. Dustin, welcome in. Pick 2 out of these to start. Brandon Ayuk, DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, and Alan Lazard. Okay. Lazard's got that tough matchup against the Cowboys. That's right. So Godwin, DK, and Ayuk. Ayuk faces a pretty weak Chargers secondary that has given up a lot of yards through the air. DK Metcalf. He draws that Buccaneers matchup. Not crazy on it. I like Ayuk off the bat due to the matchup and the fact that Debo's still coming back. Chris Godwin against the Seahawks. Godwin's really been dominating targets. We look at target usage, one of my favorite metrics here. When we talk about all 3, really. Availability, you can see if they're playing or not. Opportunity, and of course, productivity. And Godwin is surrounded by those injuries. DK not crazy about the matchup against that Bucs secondary. They've still got some pretty good corners. Defense hasn't been the issue. It's been offense, as you can see through the frustration of Brady. He's not yelling at the defense. He's yelling at those O-linemen. Godwin, even without a touchdown, I mean, these are the targets you want to see. And even when Mike Evans was healthy, he's toe for toe with them. I think we like Godwin's situation a lot, especially with Gage and Evans out. Not out. Could be monitored. You're going to prioritize a guy who's very healthy and taking a lot more snaps, running a lot more routes. He's going to get those chances. So Godwin, not a bad matchup against the Seahawks. Some injuries around him. Ayuk, we've got Debo just coming back possibly. Another good matchup against the Chargers. Whereas DK, not crazy about it. We could go with DK. Lazard's the one I would definitely avoid due to the matchup and the nature of that poor Packers offense. Kyle, welcome in, man. Do I trade Jamal Williams and Deebo Samuel for DeAndre Swift? I have Kenneth Walker, and I already have Kelsey, DK, Higgins, and Mike Evans. I mean, Jamal Williams is getting more usage right now, right? And Swift is healthy. Swift's injury is starting to linger like Keenan Allen's, except he's actually playing football. Kyle, if you want to go Jamal Williams and Deebo, you can get a lot more than DeAndre Swift. That's what I'll say about that. I would have said Leonard Fournette a couple weeks ago. He's a pretty big buy low now. You could probably do you do Jamal for Fournette almost straight up, but it's really just running back for running back. So maybe you could do a Debo or an Ayuk level. You got DK, Higgins, and Mike Evans. You could do like Higgins or something. Don't give 2 up for Swift. I understand the appeal, but he has not been available, and we got to look at that. Uday, thoughts on trading Amon-Ra and Dameon Pierce for Mike Williams and Travis Etienne? 10-man PPR, and I also have Cooper Kupp. All right. Etienne's one of my favorite running backs right now from a usage standpoint, even though they are not winning a whole lot of games in Jacksonville. They did last week against the struggling Raiders, as everyone beats the Raiders now. They still use Etienne a ton in the passing game, and they will keep a pretty digestible balance of pass and run. So I like Etienne a lot. Amon-Ra's had availability issues, so if we look at it straight up, Amon-Ra and Mike Williams, nearly a wash, and then Dameon Pierce for Etienne. I'm giving Etienne the nod. I like that a lot. Moke, would you trade Chubb, Keenan Allen, and Devontae Smith for Kamara and Waddle? Kamara, we got to be careful in terms of trades in general because of what could happen at any week. But, Chubb, man. I'm not sure I'd throw Chubb in there. I might throw like your second or third running back because if you give up a dynamic guy like Chubb and then Kamara gets suspended, we pretty much did that for Waddle. And Waddle is not worth all 3 of those guys, albeit he is good. Not even sure I'd do Waddle for Chubb straight up. Either pull Chubb out of there or go for somebody other than Kamara. Split this trade in half and go for Austin Eckler. I mean, that's the level of talent you have to go after if you're going to give up a Nick Chubb. Michael Alexander. And again, I don't know your record situation, but that's just kind of a general statement. If I'm looking at value, you're giving up a lot with Chubb and Smith, honestly. Smith, not so much, obviously, but it's a run-heavy scheme over there in Philly once they're up a decent amount. Michael, welcome. Is Cousins a decent start against the Bills if Josh Allen sits out, or should I look to the waivers? Whether Josh Allen sits out or not, I mean, maybe the time of possession goes out for the Bills. You could look to the waivers, Michael. I think the Bills' front 7, whether you have the ball for 25, 30, or 35 minutes out of a 60-minute game, assuming it doesn't go to OT, which it could, 2 talented teams. Not a big fan of the overall passing situation against the Bills, and we can look at multiple metrics for that, but it's not pretty when you're facing a defense that allows less than 200 yards through the air per game, something only 9 defenses can boast. Not a big fan of that at all. Maybe he does well. Justin Jefferson against that secondary and Adam Thielen against the secondary, and Hawkinson is going to be decent. I think Cousins has he's definitely got a low ceiling, but I can't say he has a high floor. I don't think he's a stable one against the Bills. That's one of my exceptions. Bills and Jets, pretty scared of those matchups. Things we could go after. Go after an option of picking up a Jacoby Brissett against that very, very, very vulnerable Miami Dolphins defense. He just threw for a season-high 278 passing yards last week. So maybe a Jacoby Brissett if you're looking waivers, because I'm not a big fan of Kirk Cousins. Not too much on waivers right now in general. I'm not going with Russ against the Titans. Titans quarterback situation's an absolute mess. We're going to sit Daniel Jones against the Texans. Went over why that was before. Just run-heavy scheme, not the best secondary to be going up against. If it's a super deep league, I'd say maybe take your chances on Pickett against that secondary, but I really don't. I want to see that offense prove to me that they can do something first. Carr probably won't be available. Yeah, I'm thinking Brissett, or you stick with Cousins. He's consistent. It's a tough matchup, but if you're really thinking waivers and you want to try and, up the ante, Brissett has a great matchup. So that's what I would go with, Michael. Thanks for stopping in. Tanner. I traded Kareem Hunt and Darnell Mooney for Miles Sanders. W or L? Mooney's usage is going up. Kareem Hunt had one good week, and I really thought he was going to get traded. I thought the Browns were doing that thing they do where, teams use a guy a lot right before the deadline. They're like, look how good he is, but Miles Sanders gets that usage, man, and Miles Sanders is having a pretty good year. If you had a need at the running back position, I really think that's okay. It's a team-to-team basis. Miles Sanders has been one of the most efficient running backs in the league. I think you did fine. Kareem Hunt, he's in a backfield with Nick Chubb. Anytime somebody is in the backfield with one of those guys, a top-tier guy like him or Austin Eckler or Derrick Henry, you got to understand they're going to have a secondary role, even if they do get involved in the pass game. You are getting a guy in Miles Sanders who's top 10 in usage, who's top 10 in production, who's top 10 in touchdowns, and efficiency is top 25 yards a carry. I think you hit it out of the park, man. I don't think you screwed anybody over, but I think you actually got a pretty good end of that deal in a dynamic and dominant and touch-heavy Miles Sanders. My wide receivers are really good, Tanner says. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Giving up Darnell Mooney if you've got a good wide receiving core. He's in a run-heavy offense, and Chase Claypool's there. And they're using Fields in the open field, pun intended, a lot more. Jeff Johnson, welcome, man. My team is at quarterback. We've got Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins, two solid options. Running back, we've got Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Cordero Patterson. What a 1-2-3 punch. Deontay Foreman. Situation's going to change with Hubbard coming in. Wide receiver, Amon-Ra, Lazard, Jerry Jeudy, Joshua Palmer, Marquise Brown, still waiting on him. And then tight end, Travis Kelce. Should I trade for a wide receiver? Yeah, I could see you kind of want that home run hitter. If you want, you can try a Marquise Brown before he comes back and a Joshua Palmer. Maybe you'd have to do a Jerry Jeudy if you really want to hit a home run and try and get wide receiver like a Justin Jefferson or a Cooper Kupp. Otherwise, I honestly think you're fine. You've got two really good pass catching and overall dynamic all-purpose backs in Eckler and Saquon. I'm okay with where you are. If you were to trade for someone, Mike Evans is always a good, reliable option. He's not a home run hitter, so you could probably go Lazard and, Foreman and maybe get him. But I don't know. Jeff, I think it's okay. Should I trade Lazard and Foreman for Lamb? Oh, I was just thinking about that before I read your comment, I swear. That would be a good offer. Lazard is on a losing team right now. It's not a good offense, but he is on a losing team. Game script perspective, we have seen the Packers ditch the run. They're not using A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones as much as they were early on in the season. So you could try that for Lamb, see if they'd pitch it, and then slowly work your way up. Maybe if they don't do Lazard and Foreman, you go Foreman and Brown with the understanding that he'll be a good playoff contributor. Yeah. And then go for a bigger target, like maybe you get into like the Justin Jefferson range, but just a little bit below it. But not Lamb, like somewhere in between, like an A.J. Brown. Parker, first time I've seen you in this chat. Welcome. Who would you rather have, Dalvin Cook and Mostert or Pollard and Dameon Pierce? Okay, Mostert's the weakling here. So Dalvin Cook is definitely up there. He's going to get the usage. Pollard, I think, gets that job by the end. I think we've got more balance with Pollard and Dameon Pierce. I'm going to give the edge to them because we don't know what's going on with Mostert. We saw Jeff Wilson's performance. So even if Dalvin outscores both Pollard and Dameon Pierce, obviously not combined, but by a decent amount, we can't really guarantee Mostert's going to get touches. We know that Pollard is going to come up and probably take that spot, or at the very least in his, start against the Bears, he earned some touches and he was still getting touches before. So Pollard, although he's a secondary back, he's got a way more significant role than Mostert. Dalvin's going to beat Dameon Pierce for me right now. So I like bottom half, Parker. Moke, Jonathan Taylor, Keenan Allen, and Cooper for Kamara and Waddle. I'm careful with Kamara right now, both trading away and for, because we don't know what's happening in terms of the trade, or in terms of the... Okay, Edward, so his trials in March. I don't know the trial stuff. I'm just looking at the fact that I haven't heard anything too much in terms of him getting suspended. If we don't think he's going to get suspended in the trials in March and nothing gets pushed forward, should be good. So if we're going off straight value, JT Keenan and Amari Cooper for Kamara and Waddle, they might ask for a little more because you've got Keenan Allen being so injury prone. Pretty frustrating considering he's still not going through walkthroughs in practice. So you may have to give up a little more, but it'd be fair for you. They might ask you for somebody better than Keenan, so be aware. But if Keenan was healthy, JT, Keenan, and Cooper, that'd be fair for Kamara and Waddle. You just got to be prepared. Well, he's going to have to fill the bench spot, right? You could always take, like, JT out and upgrade Keenan. And I know you want to get rid of Keenan because of the injury, though, so I get that. So that'd be fair for you. I'm not so sure it'd be fair for him. All right, good point, Edward, as well. Thank you all for stopping in the stream. I think I'm going to cut it there, but I do appreciate all of you coming in the stream, asking your fantasy football question, taking in the information on the 5 guys I said you should get in terms of waiver wire acquisitions. We've got Jacoby Brissett, we've got Kenyon Drake, we've got Terrace Marshall Jr., we've got Mecole Hardman, and we've got Cade Otton at the tight end position there at the end. So I appreciate all of you. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, as always, doing a couple of live streams a week, YouTube shorts every single day. We're a fantasy football channel, and we do emphasize a little bit on general sports as well. But our goal is to equip you with the best research possible to win this time in Week 10 as your playoffs approach. But with that, we'll take off. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, and I hope all of you have a great night.